Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to some EVE Online and welcome back also to sisi, the test server for EVE Online, where CCP is holding a mass test. Interestingly enough, it's centered around performance for the game and changes that they are planning to do or trying to do to missiles and rockets when it comes to their effects, graphics. From what I've read, it's both graphical and audio-wise. That will hopefully help performance without having to give back too much of the cool visuals that missiles do bring to the game. So I'm in the Gila at this point. I'm actually in the passive tank Gila with the regen of 164 HP a second. So this should be quite interesting. And we should be starting in just a couple of minutes. So I've already seen lots of jackdaws around as well, which I've prepared a couple of auto jackdaws, and we'll see what else comes out as we start. So we are undocking right now. I am really curious about this, a bit of an unexpected mass test, and very interesting to see that CCP is actually working on performance. Once again, it's a constant struggle in EVE Online, but definitely very welcome work. So here we are, got some ravens back there, we've got the ever-present drake, every fleet needs one, rattlesnake, some smaller ships, flycatcher, things like that. And performance wise this all looks good. And now we have to warp to the XBV gate, so stargates XBV, and we'll do warp at 0 and hold at the gate. After that, there's usually a jump that is done. We've got 136 people in local, not that many. It is, of course, summertime. The mass test was announced just a couple of days before it actually happened. And, well, it's a little bit maybe low on specifics to attract or garner a lot of attention. I don't think that I read right away that it was about possible new missile effects and things like that. So, off we go. I'm in Fleet W as always, 65 in Fleet W with 114 local. Sounds like it's going to be decently well spread. And here we go, landing on the gate. A couple of people still taking the capital ships, which is absolutely fine. But of course, the focus is on missile ships. So we've got lots of Tengus. You can see some Jackdaws here. Cerberus, Caracals, Drakes, Sacrilege. Yeah, awesome ship Sacrilege here. We also have Apraxis, yeah, some Society of Conscious Thought ships are pretty good as well. Ooh, the Pancake, the Bargist right there. And we also... Can a Marshal use missiles? I think so. Do these weapons come out? Oh, that looks so good. Look at the weapons come out. We just don't see anything on the hard point. That's a bit weird. But that is definitely a pretty cool effect. Do we see anything on the hard points here? No. Okay. Well, I'm curious to see if those guys have launchers as well. One eye on the instructions. So that's the Marshal. Let's do a quick show info. Traits. Hybrid projectiles. They also have a possible missile bonus as well. So you can definitely use it as... It's so big as well, the Marshal. Look at that. It almost feels like a capital ship amongst all of these cruisers, battle cruisers, and smaller. It's really a very big battleship and pretty damn cool. So at least we'll have some good opponents, stuff like Jackdaws, or I think a nice target for my high DPS Gila. And we are still holding as... we also have a Leviathan who is in Fleet W that is joining the party. Very interesting. A couple more battleships. A Macarial. I'm not sure that that uses missiles. Maybe it has that like one launcher. And actually a Dreadnought with missiles as well. So we're counting down to the jump, which is all about, you know, taking a look at server performance, as at this point over 100 people should be taking the gate at the same time. So there we go. Jumping through, really not a big problem. You start to notice that with 200 plus to 300 people, that's when you do start to get some more performance stress here, but so far it's working quite well. And I think we're just going to go straight to Poitot, so Poitot line 2 I think is the right thing to do. And here we go, also some frigates. We've got Hawk, Kestrels. They were also requesting some ships very specifically with the rockets Not sure that that has rockets. Ortrus goods. Hawk. Hawk probably has good launchers on it. Can we actually see him? Yep, right there. Warp to the Tara. Use the right-click menu. Okay, was not expecting that. Warp within 0. Was that in the original steps? Let's go take a quick look here. Oh yeah, and shoot it only for a few minutes. Okay, because we are in smaller ships. So actually misread here. I thought we were gonna go straight to the PvP battle, but we also have a little bit of PvE. A bash on a Tatara. Well, we could try to have a nice view of the missiles as they fly there, and of course also a view of the performance, which so far hasn't shown anything out of the ordinary. Pretty good response for the camera. Everything at 60 FPS, no problem. So off we go. About 120 people followed up here. Some people still asking for fleets. Let's land on the Tatara. And people are firing already. Lots of missiles. This could be pretty cool. Let's start with a very close view of my launchers here. So there go my rapid light missile launchers. And something that I already like a lot more at this point is that you don't have the hesitation after they get away from the launcher, and then that a weird acceleration that I've seen happening more and more on TQ. It almost started to bother me. This to me is pretty cool. They do fly in like a very strange, unpredictable pattern, which I'm not sure I like. Maybe it's more on the smaller missiles. You know, these are rapid light missile launchers that this happens. If we go for a bigger ship, for instance, let's go take a quick look at the Rattlesnake. His performance is holding quite okay. Is he firing? If he is, I'm not seeing from where, so we're moving on to something else, like this guy. Raven. Launch. Any missiles? We're currently here. Still waiting as well, alright. I'm seeing the cruisers fire, I'm seeing the destroyers fire. Not really seeing...
A module has run out of charges.
Okay, just do the reloads. Not really seeing what's happening on battleships and battle cruisers. And there it goes. Okay, so the Drake is firing as well. Let's see if we can take a look at the path of these missiles. Okay, not seeing too much. What is the spatula doing? There. Well, that looks quite okay. So they're taking off vertically. And then I wonder if their path... You can definitely see that some of them are a lot straighter than for the small missiles. There they go. So vertical takeoffs. That's still in there. Okay. But you can definitely see that the smaller missiles, and especially the rockets, they're just flying all over the place. Look at that. Definitely a different feel to some of them. Like that. Compare that to the Bargists. This does feel a lot more random. I wonder what it's going to be when we go ship against ship. That could be very interesting as well. And then if we go performance, alright, 150 people, still holding quite okay. Feel free to look around and watch if the graphics are working fine. So the graphics are working fine, but the smaller missiles, from this point of view, well, you know, you can see it feels a little bit different from TQ. If you look at the swarms of small missiles and rockets that are flying out. And I personally am a sucker for clean patterns, for like missiles that, you know, are launched in a volley and stick together on the exact same path. So that's just personal preference. It all seems to be working okay, and it looks different. But you can also tell on some of the bigger ships that you do still have the straighter missiles, if we could find a source for them. So you can see all the whirlies that happen here. Stop shooting and scoop drones. Okay, well, we're in the reload anyways. And yeah, if they're gonna stop shooting, might as well get back to it. So it could of course be that it is because we are firing at a large structure, and so it's choosing between places to hit that are very far away from each other sometimes. But you can clearly tell that they do a lot of extra movements, and then most of them heading to the same spot. So not sure if that's actually the case. Fleet W, warp and jump to Poitot, set up the gate camp. You got it. Stargates, Poitot, jump. We are ready. Move that caracal away from my path, please, fleet mates. Off we go. And yeah, 155, definitely a pretty small mast test, but as I've said, decently a little warning, and it is summertime. I mean, that's just something that is very seasonal in EVE Online and pretty noticeable. People go out, enjoy the summertime, and that leaves less time for EVE Online, let alone testing in EVE Online. So it's basically a normal pattern. Performance wise, this all looks quite okay. Not sure why all of these neutrals, including CCP Antiquarian, is already holding at the gate, but let's set up that gate camp. Let's get the velocity going. My range, definitely have to keep an eye on that. 31 kilometers at this point. So let's do an orbit at current. Put up the hardener, speed things up. Fleet X will have to hold at the gate. And I mean, it's never a good idea to be here as a neutral, not part of the fleet. And then also doing boosts. There's more neutrals than fleet members here so far. Local is going up to 32. CCP Antiquarian is here as well. Am I missing something? Fleet members, 87. So we didn't mess up the fleets, right? I only asked in Fleet W, so I should definitely be in Fleet W. Let's go take a look. It does look like I might be in Fleet. That can't be. Can you see the name of your fleet in here somewhere? Warp to Stargate Poitot. I have a surprisingly low amount of fleet members that seem to be present here. So let's go take a quick look at the other side of the gate. That's where normally they're not fighting. And is this be Paradox in Fleet X? Did he sneak me in his fleet just to get me killed early on? That is possible. But I'm pretty sure that I asked in Fleet W. We will see. The fight will start pretty soon anyways. My fleet members are pretty clear. So let's go take a quick look at the other side. Yeah, that's definitely where my fleet is. Interesting. Let's stick with them. Let's assume I'm in X, and if you ever join a mass test and you're in this situation, same as me, that you know you're maybe not in a fleet or you don't know which fleet you accidentally joined, then what you can do is make sure that you stay in XBV. This is where no fighting will happen, and especially as a neutral, it's better to be here. If Fleet W, the fleet that sets up the gate camp, will quite often start fighting early on and take care of these neutrals. A little bit like this poor guy in the Garmer back there. But okay, well, we are in Fleet X apparently. Maybe I just grabbed the wrong chat window. Weird. But we'll make it work. I survived my return trip, so it's all good. And that Garmer, is he fighting back? Let's take a look at that. ECM bursts. Okay. Well, you can fly away. We are ready. And then we'll hunt for some good targets. And especially, of course, keep an eye on the graphics as well if we can. Fleet X, jump to point and fight. Now, I'm going to try to learn my lesson here. Let at least some guys warp in first. There we go. That should be good. 65 on this side. And we jump in when there's 115 over here. Ooh, their Logi links seem to already be up. Don't think that I'm going to try to break that right away. Instead, let's maybe try something like Corax. Activating. Let's get some drones out as well. Ooh, he's already paying the price. Alright, so we're just going to target some stuff. The worm, he's in range. And now I do want to see the flight path of my missiles if I can. Okay, so that is still the effect, right? They take off in a completely different direction and then chase after the target. I personally don't like it that much. So lots of bounty payments happening. We are, well, that worm is repping quite heavily. I'm in the passive tank, getting attacked by at least something. But it works, but you can clearly still see the missiles, how when they launch. Let's see if I can get the visual on them. Man, that's tricky to do. Okay, so sometimes you really don't see the trails anymore. That, yeah, look at that. But look at the performance here. 140 people, 60 FPS, not a problem. Everything super responsive. So maybe that's part of the change, right? Depending on your zoom, apparently, you sometimes have more warrior. Right, let's try to target that a little bit. That's reloading. My drones are still going after... Ooh, now he's taking big chunks of damage. After the worm. And can we see... So, I can't tell exactly for sure. But I think that depending on your zoom level, there might be a sort of a gradients happening in the actual missile effects. Nicely done to survive that. Let's see if I can do some damage to that warrior. Can I? Oh, he's actually out of range now. So is that one. CCP Antiquarian. We're gonna respect the CCP dev here. Let's see what we can do against the Tengu and what a cruiser-on-cruiser missile launch looks like with the rapid lights. There they go. So you can see the trails aren't always that visible, and then you can also see the Tengu's trails. Now they're there, and then they're not there. Okay, well, definitely something to take note of. Right now you don't see them, and then sometimes you do see them. Is this the actual idea? I'm not sure. Let's also start targeting the Claymore. That lucky worm there did pretty well. ECM attempt. While the Tengu is tanking quite well, and well, I'm sometimes they're taking some pot shots at me, but look at that at that passive regen. It is pretty good. And now the Tengu is being targeted quite heavily, so we get lots of effects everywhere. That is pretty good. But sometimes you get the missiles without the trails, and sometimes you can clearly see the trails come in and do all that damage. bounty payment, but it's not on the Tengu. Who's doing well? I can add some looting as well. And he is down. Let's see if we can go after the Claymore next. Nice D in the Golem. Could be good to see what it's like when a cruiser goes after... maybe we should try that actually. See what it's like when a cruiser goes after a battleship. If there's like a different flight path. But no, it's still the very random light missiles. And there you've got the trails. And on the first shot you didn't see the trails. And here you go. They're gone again. Interesting. I don't necessarily mind. Especially if it helps performance. Ooh, now that's a lot of missiles. That looks cool. That one is gonna blow up. Put him in the background. And then you can see, sometimes you get trails, sometimes you don't have trails. Very interesting. Let's see what happens if we switch. Ooh, the battlecruiser getting pretty big reps there. The Golem not breaking at all. Let's see if we can add some DPS on the Claymore. Again, no trails. Second shot. No trails still. But performance, look, see, 50 FPS, not a problem. We're still 130 people fighting right here. There goes the Claymore. So, it's definitely working. I just don't know if this is the actual idea behind the changes to missiles and rockets when it comes to performance. So, definitely going to go after the Tengu next, since he is actually being broken. And my passive regen, well, some people tried a little bit, but it was definitely okay. Got a Garmer right there. Let's target him back. As we reload, maybe we can try the switch. There is the Garmer. Let's see how he likes. No need for missiles anymore. Sisi Havoc in a Drake. Still on the clock, I think. If I look at the instructions here. And here is my ship. That was what I was looking for. Then we got some trails back. And now we got no trails. Okay, that one is gone. What else have we got? A Drake. Approach. He's actually attacking one of mine. Let's see if we can put some pressure on that evil Drake. And again, oh, now trails forming mid-flight. No trails, off they go. So I'm not this feels like it's like less busy, less overwhelming. You also see a little bit less of it as well. So here you can clearly see the difference between that one shot that had the full trails and then these two shots that don't have the trails here. It's pretty obvious that there is a difference. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if it means better and more stable performance. Go. He goes down as well. Tumbling into the void. And is that another Drake? Yeah. And here we also have a Heretic. Let's go take a look at that one. He's targeted. Let's go. See what happens with these missile launches. You are targeted, Heretic. Now you do have the trails. Could them go after that? Maybe, yeah. Feels like a little bit more motion. Not sure. Should really also take a look at it with the ship with larger missiles. My drones are going to get this done. And then a golem with apparently very strong resistances. We still have a phantasm here, another Gila. Okay. Phantasm being wrecked. But I think you can clearly tell there are missiles incoming. But it's not as pronounced as what we have on TQ right now, I think. Which might be the whole point. If I read it correctly, there ought to be a dev block coming after the mass tests. You know, once they can confirm that they can indeed go ahead with the changes. So let's get back on that golem. Is he active tanking? And now look at those battleship missiles though. They still look, you know, large in the path, flight path that I personally really like. So that looks really good from the golem. But the smaller ones you can clearly see graphically seem to be a lot less intense on the screen. That's basically how I would describe it. I'm absolutely okay with it personally, especially if it improves performance. Oh, that was a nice flight from that other Gila there, firing its own missiles right in front of the camera. That was good. Performance-wise here, 50 FPS, something like that. Definitely not a problem. Still another 13 people. They keep coming back. And we also have a breacher back there. That is immediately being targeted quite heavily. Plop, there she blows. Let's re-approach here. See if we can get right into all of these missile effects. Let's add this. And you can see the shield is being peppered. And sometimes bigger missiles from the bottom here are pretty obviously visible. But smaller missiles, I would say they feel like you don't see them as well. And there you go. Look at those missiles being launched by the golem itself. Right, that's personally the pattern that I prefer. Bit slower, straight line, nice curve towards the target. There you can see us cruisers with medium, well, medium. You know, the Sacrilege might definitely have heavy missiles, but the smaller missiles not as pronounced. And his ISD Baldath must have some sort of cheat cheat mods, I think. There's still a Tengu back there. Is he being targeted? Let's see if we can switch to him. Like that. Graphics, audio-wise here, I'm definitely still noticing the typical EVE Online sound, right? Cutting in and out when there's a lot of stuff happening here. And now ISD Bobath is targeting me, so we've got my passive tank, my regen tank, that is trying to do its thing. But maybe we can see the path from his missiles come towards my ship. There they come. There they come through 3 and nice big explosions. So that is definitely pretty good. Let's re-approach. Back there. Tank being tested. Getting straight through the rep. The natural rep doesn't help. Capsule has been ejected. Okay, let's approach the gate. Let's see. Ooh, so that was my tactical camera, not going where I wanted it to. But we can still see if we can. Oof, my god, the audio now is not too good. Well, that was probably the Nagelfar back there. So let's see if we can grab someone else in a missile ship. Take a look at that. Huge explosions in the background. And CCP Habakkuk does call the end of the mass test here. So hopefully they got all the data that they needed. He's not firing. I'm a bit disappointed by that. Need someone... there we go. That's the thing. Firing. Why is my camera... There we go. That feels better. Pretty good reset on that. And here again, look at that. Sometimes you get the trails, sometimes you don't have the trails. There they are back. That definitely feels a little bit random. It's finished. Feel free to keep fighting. Let's see if he targets someone else. Yep. Back on the golem there. So you can clearly see that is not always the same, which is a bit weird. And then I'll go back to Iced. We'll finish up on the golem from Iced Beldath and see if we can find his missiles. They're these, okay. So he's obviously targeting that healer. And there they go, look at that. Those are the large missiles. A bit slower, a bit more consistent. Maybe that's really the test that they're going for with this change. But now, here, a battleship, also no trails to be seen here. So, yeah, I can't wait for the dev block itself to see exactly what CCP is trying to aim at with these changes to the missiles. But at least from this mass test, it does seem to work. Performance, in my opinion, was quite nice. And that is even with the brackets on during this entire fight. So there we go. Hopefully. And that's the one thing I don't like, what you just saw there. The missiles go in a very a specific direction, but then they take that like that 90-degree or 180-degree change and just start going in a completely different direction. I think that's when you're up against a very fast target, like a small frigate, that's when that happens. But overall, this does feel pretty good and looks quite nice. And in fact, I'm being sent home at this point as well. So we'll end the mass test here, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.